My name is Kiana Conley-Akinro. I'm the Senior Executive Director for the LA chapter, and I'm here with you today for our Conversations, Grammys Bridges the Gaps series. Live audience, yes, okay. Those are our members that are here with me in our amazing panel today. This amazing series is basically a casual conversation amongst our Grammy family. So our Los Angeles chapter producers and engineers wing, our professional development committee, as well as our songwriters and composers wing committees have been working hard, crafting original conversations and topics that will be inspiring and allow us to take a deeper dive into current issues that you're all buzzing about, things that you're talking about within your craft and your genre creative communities. Today's participants and our audience are voices of the Recording Academy LA chapter. They are Grammy nominees and winners. They are new members from the class of 2023. They're Los Angeles chapter board leaders and Next alumni, and even Grammy U members. So we have a host of everything we love and see within our LA membership here today. We've got music business giants and beloved indie creators. We want everyone to know that they are welcomed here. So this conversation today is all about our music community. It's built on discussions that have been mirroring what you've been talking about in studios, at your lunch meetings, in your compelling social media campaigns. It's brought in this forum where everyone in our Grammy family can have an impactful voice, share knowledgeable perspective, and be a bridge in our community. And we hope that you guys will engage with our music business locally and beyond from some of the things that you hear discussed today. So we hope that these conversations will be engaging and informative and reflect you, our amazing creators and professionals of the Recording Academy. Before I introduce our moderator and our panelists for today, I'd like to thank our amazing partners at 1500 or Nothing, both in their Sound Academy and Volume Studios space. They've been an amazing host, so let's give an applause for them. And also a shout out to the wings of the Recording Academy, our producers and engineers wing, our songwriter and composers wing, and then as well as our Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Black Music Collective moment that will be taped as part of this conversation. We thank them for their support and, of course, for the branding. So we're going to kick off today's discussion. It's called The Marathon, A Songwriter's Life and Times. The moderator for this panel is Evan Bogart. He's our current Songwriter and Composer Wing Committee co-chair, and he's a trustee for the LA chapter. He's the CEO of Seeker Music, and the SNC Wing, obviously we mentioned that earlier, has been one of his amazing projects that he helped initiate and see through to where it is today. He's a multi-platinum songwriter and producer for hits by Beyonce, Rihanna, Madonna, and more. He's dedicated to advocating for music creators and empowering songwriters globally. Thanks, Evan. Next up, we have our panelist, Tora Stinson. Tora Stinson is an Academy and Golden Globe Award nominated songwriter. Her songs have been recorded by Destiny's Child, Khalees, Solange, Kanye West, Mary J. Blige, Earth, Wind & Fire, Brandy Norwood, Usher, Steven Tyler, Jennifer Hudson, Nas, and there are more. A shout out and a hand clap for Tora Stinson. Next, we have Brittany B., a Los Angeles-based artist and songwriter. She has worked with industry chart toppers such as Chris Brown, Summer Walker, Kiana Lede, Robert Glasper, Jennifer Hudson, Ty Dolla $ign, Ledisi, John Legend, and many more. And last but not least, we have Chris Riddick Tynes. And before winning his 2024 Grammy for the Best R&B Song for his work with SZA, he was expanding his repertoire at the LMU Loyola Law School's evening program. Yes, he was pursuing being an attorney, but now he is a Grammy-winning songwriter. We love that. As Senior Vice President of A&R and co-head of Urban Music at Arista Records, his approach has been to empower artists to speak their truths and forge genuine connections with their audiences. His law degree expanded his ability to do just that. So some of the people that he's worked with include Kenny Babyface Edmonds. He's also developed a strong song come first mentality, which he combines with his own unique style of production, and has worked with others such as Ariana Grande, Drake, Chris Brown, SZA, Fifth Harmony, Meghan Trainor, Pitbull, Ty Dolla $ign, Wiz Khalifa, Kehlani, and more. Let's give another round of applause for this amazing panel today.
Thank you, Kiana. So when I was first starting out as a full-time songwriter in the mid-2000s, I remember my parents asking me, so like, what exactly do you do for a living? And my stepdad specifically said to me, like, do you just sit around and come up with words every day? And suffice it to say, in the past 20 years, songwriters have evolved to take on an expansive roles in the music industry, above and beyond having a great pen. In many ways, we've become the new A&R producers in our own right, publishers, and mentors for other songwriters, experts in artist development, and the artist whisperers. More and more now than ever, labels, publishers, managers, and even producers all rely on us to bring the records home. And thankfully, and most importantly, it's become an acceptable job for your parents to brag to their friends about. Since the career of songwriter has become so multifaceted, we're going to delve into some of the various opportunities and challenges that come with that territory. And so let's explore some of the best practices for managing the different hats that songwriters wear, from crafting the best songs to navigating the ever-changing and evolving complex ecosystem of how we get paid and how we stay sane. Hopefully, when you hear from these expert music maestros, will inform you and inspire you about how to break in, stay in, strategize, and lay the best foundation for long-term success in today's evolving songwriting music industry. So, you ready for that? You ready to tell them everything? Okay. So, this is for all of you, so you can jump in whenever you want. What are some of the biggest opportunities that maybe we haven't had historically as songwriters, but that songwriters have today? And also, what are some of the biggest challenges? But start with the rose first, and then we'll finish with the thorns.
How about the rose and the thorn?
Go together.
Social media?
Sure.
We didn't have that, so thank God. In the 90s when I lived in New York and I was in a girl group and we were signed to a record label. It was purely word of mouth, and just people believe your A&Rs believing in you. There was obviously marketing and promotion, but we didn't have social media to drive our narratives or just share who we are, our own perspectives, and that's the rose and the thorn, I think.
Tell me more about the thorn of it.
The thorn of social media?
Sure.
Oh, are there any?
No. No, but specifically as a songwriter.
Specifically as a songwriter. No, as a creative, I think. Sure. As a creative is like the enemy of comparison. Even as a songwriter, those are things that we didn't have to worry about. You could be yourself. You can write your song and just think it was great. You didn't have to worry about the opinions of others or read the comments of what someone thinks about your song or you as an artist or your art in general. So that would be the thorn of it.
I'll bring up another rose and thorn of social media, but I'll add in streaming, right? So I'll include YouTube, Spotify, all those things. The best part about it is that you can get your songs heard. Anybody around the world at any time can hear your songs. The bad part about it, or the thorn, is that everybody's putting out songs. So even for big artists, they have to compete with a million songs coming out every 2 weeks. Evan, you probably know the numbers more than I do. I think it's like 4 million songs a month that are being uploaded. And it's like to comb through that and find a new artist or find, even somebody as big as, not Beyonce, but, another big artist, they can kind of drown in the noise. So it's more opportunities, but it's also a lesser chance of things, popping off because there's so much competition.
How much do you use streaming to inform your decisions as a songwriter?
I don't really pay attention to it. I think there's sometimes in my thought process is that, there's so many songs that have come out and stiffed when they initially have come out, but then found life later on and then have blown up, so my theory is maybe the wrong person hasn't heard it. I mean, maybe the right person or people or group of people haven't heard it yet, because I've seen it where a song is kind of stiffed and then somebody speeds it up. I use Chris Brown's Under the Influence. Not that song's stiff at all, but when it first came out, it was a bonus track. Nobody was really, Chris puts out 50 records on an album. And then this sped up song happens and goes off on TikTok and it blows up, and it's his biggest streaming record on the album, or actually, I think on his Spotify.
Yeah, it has like it has like
1.5 billion or
yeah,
something.
billion now.
You know,
It has a billion.
And
Yeah.
who would have known that it was some random person taking this song that they enjoyed, speeding it up, and then it just caught on. And then he ended up doing a video, I think, like 3 years later. So, you know, there are opportunities there for things to get discovered.
I was watching The Wonder Years, the remake with the one that Don Cheadle executively produced on Hulu. And I promise you I'm going somewhere with this. And the father in the show, his job was he was a songwriter. And he was pitching his music to like Motown. And like one of the episodes he was pitching his music to like Marvin Gaye. So like he drove down, like one of the episodes he was like, it was the first time he was away from his wife. And she was like worried about, you know, the women that he was seeing, all this stuff. So anyway, but it was very interesting to me that he was like, he wrote this song with just the lyrics and like this melody, and he like played the piano, and he was like, yeah, I think they're gonna buy it. You know, they really like it, blah, blah, blah. And it was so interesting because back then the labels would buy a song from a songwriter and like just outright buy it, right? And then the artist would cut it, and they would do what they would do with it, et cetera. And now it's like everyone's just putting their music on online, and the accessibility is different, the gatekeeping is different, the access is different. And so I think the biggest thing for me that I see as a pro and con, or like a rose and thorn, is the way in which the gate, like the floodgates have kind of opened, the accessibility. Like I can download United Masters right now, the app, and upload a song. I can use La La La, right, the app, and make a song, right? I can do all of these things I can go on TrackLib and buy the sample to Today Was a Good Day, utilize it, slice it up, speed it up, make a beat, pay my $50, clear the sample, you know, like there's all these things that I can do right from my phone that are so accessible, that kind of remove a lot of the things that as a songwriter, you know, and as just a creative in general, we would have had to have like whole teams to do and things like that. And so the pro is, yeah, the possibilities are endless, but the con is like, there were reasons that we had a lot of that in place, you know, for quality control. For me, it's more quality control, not even just like monetary things, but quality control. And so it's hard to kind of break through the noise, you know what I mean? And have the quality rise. So, yeah.
I mean, I love all of those answers. In fact, I want to kind of take each one and dive into each one more. So, and I'm going to focus on the rose part of them for a second. Okay. So, going back to socials for a second, right? Like, do you use socials to build a brand for yourself as a writer? Do you have a brand? Is having a brand an important thing in this today and age as a songwriter?
For me personally, yeah. I mean, I have social media. I wouldn't say that I focus on it a lot. My brand, it was a personal thing, pivoting from writing for R&B and pop music and just making the conscious choice of I want to write for film and TV. And so I branded myself as like, okay, if Diane Warren can do it, I'm going to be right behind her, and then until I can inch in front, an inch ahead for film and TV music. And so when I made that conscious effort, I was like, Raphael Sadiq is my primary writing partner for most of my life. But both of us made this conscious decision to say, okay, we're going to focus on film. We're going to focus on TV. And that was a rebrand for us because it meant a lot. There was a lot that we had to sacrifice for that. I became a personal assistant for a while. You have to like make all kinds of pivots to say, you know, I want to be able to explore other genres and express different feelings, tell different stories. And so we took some time and when we made this decision, we ended up getting like the Underground TV show. We ended up doing a musical film, Black Nativity. And then we realized, okay, we've made this pivot and we have to stay. Well, I had to stay on it because he's an artist too, you know, as well. But for me, I just wanted to make sure that I have tunnel vision for my vision. And that was my branding. So even though my followers aren't through the roof, the people within my industry, in terms of film and TV, they know who I am. And they know that when you come to me for a song, if it is just the melody and the lyric, and I will go and get a producer, that's my song. It's kind of like a different lens that songs are viewed through in music, the music industry and the film industry or TV. So that's a whole other conversation. But
We'll get to it in this.
yeah. I would love that.
Okay.
But yeah, the rebrand for me was just like sticking to my guns and knowing that it's cool like to be able to oh no, I'm gonna get sidetracked and I'm gonna work on this person's project. But then you realize as a songwriter, and I know that things are changing. There's a lot of advocacy going on right now, but there's a lot of parity that needs to happen with songwriters and producers. Like as songwriters, from what I remember writing for pop and R&B, I have to wait for my royalty check to get paid, and why? And so I wanted to go to a place where the song is respected as a wholly owned, if the four of us write a song, then the four of us are going to get 25% of that, or whatever we agree. We're going to get paid for that, And so I wanted to go to a place where I can not only take care of, take care of my creative self, but my financial self as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Most of my life, and for most of you probably may know me, some of you know me in this room, my brand is everything. My brand is everything. Your brand is everything. Your brand supersedes you. It's what people, it's their perspective of you. It's their perception of you, right? Perception is not reality, but perspective is, right? It's what they perceive. And so for me, coming from being a singer, a soul singer, jazz, coming from jazz, heavily influenced by jazz and R&B as a young adult, a teenager, around 2016, 2017, I was looking at the charts and I was like, I'm not going to get no placements because they got NBA Youngboy on the charts and, Drake up here doing melodic rap, and I'm not writing this. It's number one, Jesus. How am I gonna get, how am I going to get some play, and I started rapping. I was like, it's poetry. I can write poetry. It's words that rhyme, right? With cadences, I can do that. And I'll never forget, that changed my life, right? Changed my life. I called him, I was like, hey, you got some songs? I want to pay you for some songs, right? And I did. I paid him for some songs, right? And that changed my life. And then my brand became, she's a songwriter, she's a rapper. And I was like, no. I sing. But I can sing, y'all, but it changed the perception that people had of me because I was able to have this duality of doing that, right? So my brand, I say that all the time, your brand is your life and what you show people and how you're able to rebrand and how you're able to kind of evolve and show people what you do. It matters, And so for me, I feel like I've done a really great job of having duality in my songwriting. My catalog is very diverse, I've worked with Freddie Gibbs, but I've worked with Lettucey, right? I've worked with, you know what I'm saying, a Bad Baby, right? But in a City Girls, but then I'll call Robert on the phone. I'm like, hey, Rob Glass, all these different various amazing creatives who all in their own right exist in these different universes, right? They're all creatives and they all exist and they all have an audience. There's a space for them. And for us as people, as creatives who write songs, it's just our job, that's our job to write the song for them, and so, or with them, I would say, and collaborate with them. And so, going back to what you were saying, how does social media play a part in that in your brand? For me, it's just being able to, I strive every day to not kind of get typecast. And for people to understand that there's all facets and all sides of me as a creative. There's like so much more to me than just like the Bad Baby era, or so much more to me than just doing jazz with Rob, and so much more to me than just like, the melodic trap music. Like there's so much more than the pop or the South African record. There's all of it. All of it encompasses.
Well, you're a songwriter, and so I think that's what sometimes we get lost in. That perception that people think, oh, you're an R&B songwriter, or you're a pop songwriter, or you're a melodic, you're an emo songwriter, you're a rock songwriter. Songs have no limits. Like
Exactly.
they have no, they just have wings. They can go anywhere.
Yep.
So
yeah. So that's how my view on the branding.
I like to view Instagram, which I go, of course, Rose and Thorn to all of that, like you said. But I call Instagram Songwriter LinkedIn. Because when somebody's pitching me on working with a writer, the first thing I do is go to their Instagram, and I'm listening to the music, and then I'm looking at their Instagram, and for some reason, like if their Instagram doesn't match the songs, there's a disconnect for me. Like, right? No, it's kind of like, oh, I'm listening to your writing, but then I'm seeing you, and I'm like, are you trying? Is it authentic? Does it connect to me? Do I get who you are? And I feel like Instagram in itself has become this like way, because people are like, well, songwriters don't have fans. I'm like, yeah, they do. Artists and the artist teams.
Yeah.
So like,
for sure.
you're posting.
Yeah.
If you're posting for work, you're posting to establish your outward facing brand. And like you said, it's not, I always say like, this is all of Britney, but this is the Britney you want people to see.
Absolutely.
Right. And so like
they're eras.
Right. Yeah, exactly. and so that's what you give people in that sense. And I think that a common thing is that like up and coming songwriters probably don't understand how important it is to establish who you are as a writer, right? Like if you want TV and film to reach out to you, if you want certain artists to reach out to you, it's like, what energy are you putting out there in the universe to have those people come back to you? Otherwise, people are just pitching you a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do. Yep. And then you get caught up in the loop of saying yes to everything and doing all these things that you don't actually want to do.
Yep.
So I've always found socials to be a pro and a con, but and I've embraced it as kind of like this is who I am. This is what I want people to see. And set that tone.
And you're right about that, because artists are also like looking for people who are like-minded like them, and that fit their energy and their vibe too. Right. So it all goes hand in hand. If they're looking, they're like, I don't know if that, with their camp or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
And so I'm going to tie that into streaming for a second. So you had brought up streaming, but like the streaming, and this we could talk the rest of the time about streaming, but pros and cons. There's a lot, there's thorns you didn't mention. Right. But the streaming platforms have also seen the tide change over the years and have embraced putting songwriters as forward-facing brands, right? They've created songwriter departments, and thrown camps and given hoodies and notebooks to people instead of paying us. Yeah. And
they're good quality though.
They are good quality, but like I guess I prefer royalties. I don't know, but I could buy my own clothes. Thank you.
Very true. With the money they owe us.
Yeah. Or get free clothes from the Grammys. Okay. Anyway, but. Like, do you embrace? I mean, it's hard. It's like, how do you embrace what streaming platforms are trying to do by supporting songwriters, and how do you kind of accept that with what's going on the advocacy side of things?
I think it's crisis management, right? I think because of social media, there's a bigger voice for all the writers. Be like, hey, we're not getting paid fairly, and like I think it's kind of like a counteract method where they're trying to like, okay, well we'll give you guys this notoriety, whether if it's a billboard in Times Square or right up on the page or the front page of the streaming platform, or a playlist, which means they're hearing us, which is a good thing. But I think until it really transpires into payment and fair payment, which takes time, right? It's not just like, it's legislation and all these other things that like go into us getting rates that are raised. It's not just like somebody flipping a switch and then the money just comes running down the pipe. But yeah, I think that it's a step in the right direction.
But how should like not just up and coming songwriters, sure, like people getting into the business,
Yeah.
but even just established songwriters, how should they be thinking about it in your opinion? Like
About streaming?
well, just should they be embracing the love that streaming services are giving us? Should they honestly should they love or hate streaming services?
I mean, I think it's the method of music consumption, right? So I think you gotta embrace it. Like you can't just shun streaming because that's how people consume the music. I think it's just continue to speak up, use the relationships that we build with the Spotifys or the Apples and continue to, voice those opinions on trying to be treated more fairly. And it's a whole three-pronged conversation. It's not just the streaming platforms. It's also the labels that are responsible for some of the things that we as songwriters, get the short end of the stick on. So I definitely think to embrace it. But it's one of those things, music is at an all-time high with consumption, and streaming allows us to kind of have songs that can, if the rates are figured out fairly, can pay us for the rest of our lives, right? Where like the life of a song usually dies from when we had the physical sales, right? If it's not on the radio or if it's not being bought in stores, then how are you going to make money? But now with streaming, you could be generating income from a catalog that's 50, 60 years old, and be our retirement fund. So I think if it gets figured out, streaming would be very advantageous for us.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a good segue into, the pivot into TV and film as one solution. You're all multifaceted writers and brands and businesses in your own right. And so I guess the question is how, I guess it's two-part, which is how important is it to wear multiple hats, and how does that, and is that a solution? Do you find that to be a solution in the sense of like uncertainty around streaming rates, last year's double strikes, right? I mean, there's songwriters keep, every time we seem to have a victory, we turn the corner, and there's like, just as of recently with bundling and a new rug that gets pulled out from under us, right? And so. Is it, they always say like master one thing, don't be, jack of all trades, master of none, right? But at the same time, like I feel like you can't just be a songwriter, right? So it's like, how do you balance kind of wearing these multiple hats and still being great at what you do and being able to earn money in today's?
I think for me, I think you should master one thing and then use that to segue into other things. I think all of the greats, the Michael Jacksons, the Quincy Jones, the Pharrells. They all do multiple things. Like, Pharrell's just not making beats. He's also designing clothes and using that, to go and do his own albums and TV and film and all these things. So I think as a business, as a songwriter, you're in the business of music, right? So if you do get the opportunity to get a hit record, you better be figuring out how to like put that money into other places and use your resources into doing other things, whether if it's, signing your own artists. And that's another thing we can go into, like the relationship that the songwriter has with the artist is extremely important. So you have to be thinking like a business, right? Like for me, I play some pretty big records, and I can guarantee you 99% of them didn't come from shopping it around. Right? It came from the relationship with the artist. I came up under one of the biggest songwriters in the world, which is Kenny Babyface Edmonds, and his partner at the time, Antonio Dixon. And these guys were doing heavy, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, all these things, right? And I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and I'm like, look, I'm not about to be on the hamster wheel trying to get placements on these artists. They already have. I quickly understood that this is their cow to kill, right? Like this is their food to eat. I'm gonna go around my peers, which at the time, I was in high school. At the end of high school, beginning of college, and there was a young girl that my boy Leon, who I produce a lot of stuff with, was doing a TV show with, Ariana. No one was checking for her at the time, and we went in the studio and we did Yours Truly at 19 years old, right? That whole album. There was a girl.
I just want to know. I just want to know, when y'all called me to demo a couple of them songs, why y'all didn't let me put like the word "and" on it, or like
we didn't know.
I just want to know.
We didn't know.
I just want to know.
We didn't know.
Okay, I'm not going to.
We didn't know what it was going to be. She actually did want to be records.
Y'all paid me
To be fair, when I was offered to go in with Ariana or Victoria Justice, I chose Victoria Justice.
Oh yeah,
so.
see,
She was the star of the show, right?
Yeah, she was. But I was like, yo, she sounded like Mariah. So I was like, I know what to do with this, because she was doing some more poppy records, and me and Leon, you know, we were in there and had some demos that were kind of like in this R&B lane, and she was like open, and she was like, I'll do it, and she did it, and it ended up being what it was. But you know, there was a young girl named Kehlani who was 16 years old that I, you know, found on YouTube and reached out, and we started working, and then that was a lifelong relationship to this day. Like, you know, we still work. So the point I'm trying to make is that look to your left and to your right, and utilize your peers, because you never know who's going to be the one to pop off and become the next one. Somebody who's amazing at that, and we're in his studio now, is James Fauntleroy. He will tell you, it's not the labels that like sought him out. It was always the artists. And back to Evan's point, understanding that if you're a business, you know, you are a business. So, you know, becoming the you got to cater to your fans, who are the artists, right? The artists are the fans of the songwriters. You know, they're the ones that say, oh, I want to work with this person or that person. So that's my advice. You know, you definitely want to have a multi-pronged effect in, you know, strategy when entering this business. Is not just doing one thing, because I don't know anybody or any artist who's a writer or producer who's just successful at doing one thing. They all have their hands in multiple pots.
I like to think of it as like if you have a restaurant, when you first get a restaurant, you are your sous chef, you are the smoothie maker, you are the baker, you're the chicken fryer, you know, you do it all. Like, that's how you make your meal. A lot of people come in thinking like, oh, I'm just going to do this, and then everything, you know, if that were a restaurant, it would fail. You have to think, because if you have all that overhead, it's not going to work out. So if you look at yourself as a business like that, it's so often we don't. If we're looking at ourselves as a business, then we have to limit our overhead and make sure that our output is like just huge. And how do I put it? We want to make sure that our output is creative and tasty, like if we're a restaurant, you know. And often we don't do that as creatives. And when I do, like, if I do a record, I'm doing backgrounds, I'm doing arranging, I'm doing the writing. When I first started off, like, sometimes you're able to give opportunities to other people as you grow, but in the beginning, it's all about doing the things, you know, on your own. What I was an A&R like 2 times in my life, and it was just beautiful because it's an extension of what we already do, you know. So you're able to make these records. I was working with gospel music for BET Sunday's Best, and I did all the A&R for Matthew Knowles and his label Music World, and then also doing background vocals for, like, when we had the strike. It was crazy because this is not going to be the last time. There's going to be another strike. There's another one brewing probably in the next contract period, next 3 years. What are you going to do? Just thinking, like, if there's another pandemic, all the different things that we have to go through. I did backgrounds on records that didn't do well, and then records that were like explosive, like Bang Bang, and Side to Side that went into having commercials and, you know, just campaigns and stuff like that, which helps you as a songwriter with your health insurance, you know. So we don't get health insurance as songwriters. You have to go through SAG-AFTRA and to get that health insurance. There's so many aspects to this running yourself as a business that we almost have to write it down. Like, who's going to write this book? You know, like, being an author, I've written 2 books. It's just like all the extension of all things that we're not just born with one gift. You know, I'm sure I can see all your gifts. You know, it permeates from you. Like, you know that you are so much more than a songwriter. And just being able to walk into a room and to know for yourself without anyone telling you, you know, like, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is how I'm going to get there. And just making sure that you take the steps in between to get to that other end of the.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just say, in terms of music business, I'm from Compton, California. LA, baby. And I work here out of 1500, out of Volume Studios, like about 2-3 times a week. I get the privilege of seeing Sir James Fauntleroy every now and then, and, you know, seeing Rance and my guys. And I've taught some masterclass workshops at 1500 Sound Academy on songwriting and songwriting for sync. I scored my first movie last year, a feature film called Family Portrait on the AMC network. It was the scariest thing I ever did in my life, scoring a movie. Very tedious, a lot. But getting into music supervision and doing something that was, different from myself in my career as a songwriter, was a lot. It was a lot. But I say all that to say that that was a new chapter in my life, given that I'm an artist and a songwriter. But different people meet you in different places in your life, right? When I met Chris, I was just writing music and like demoing. And then the next time I saw Chris, I was working at Warner. And the next time I saw Chris, he working at a label. And I'm like, we're just all, we're all meeting each other at different points in our lives, right? And that's because we are business minded, right? And we're trying to cultivate like businesses for ourselves, value, right? If you're not being able to have like value, hold value, and be used, right? Which often gets a negative connotation. But if you're not being able to like be utilized, and have some value and take up space, then like, what's the worth, right? They say, what's your net worth? Like, what are that kind of thing. So for me, coming from where I came from, seeing my friends build this incredible space, seeing, a lot of my friends build things from the ground up and understanding like being business minded is, you have to have multiple streams of income. Look at anybody in any like aspect of like, it could be fitness, any industry. That's what I was trying to think of. Any industry, any like fitness, health, whatever. They have multiple streams of income. You have to have that. So yeah. So I just that's it. That's my.
So I think that, and I know we have to wrap up soon, but I think that it's obvious in today's market you have to think of yourself as a business, right? You have to make songwriting the core of what you do, but then you need to branch out from that and figure out other passions, other things that you can do that are extensions of that. And but if you're starting out as a songwriter, it's not as easy to do that, right? And you don't have a hit yet, right? So I think some of the takeaways I had, and chime in, please, if you think there's anything else, that like when you first start writing songs, like it's important to put yourself on the songs if you can. Because all of a sudden you're singing or clapping or something on a song, and all of a sudden you've created, right, another avenue of revenue, and potentially if you can stack up those, you can get healthcare. What are some other like things?
Find your muse, man. I mean, that's what social media is. There's so many young artists that are on there. Find your person that you can collaborate with, and never say, build your community, and never say no. Like I met, there's been so many times where people will turn down sessions because like, I ain't gonna do that. That's gonna be white. It's like, just do one day. It might turn into something that you never, that you never know. I mean, a session that me and Brittany did where she had an artist and I was kind of like initially like, and then we did it, and then ended up making some cheese. So it was like, I was able to like.
I think it's gold.
Yeah, it's a gold record. So never say no. Just try everything and build community, and you just never know who's gonna, who you're gonna click with and what opportunities can come from it.
And get educated too. I know people preach like ownership, but understand what that really means as far as like your own label, signing to yourself, establishing your own publishing company, things like that. Just do those things early on and educate yourself on like what it is that you want, because everybody's path is different. You may want to sign a major record deal. You may want to stay independent. Understand what works best for you.
Right.
Everybody's path is totally different. And you know what I mean? So you may see a TikTok reel that, got somebody preaching all motivational, and that's cool, but you don't know what it went into. So like always just, I'm very, very big on music education and music business, because again, where I came from, I had to learn on my own. I didn't have those tools. I had to like literally just trial and error and my great friends, you know what I mean? And we just had to kind of like get it out the mud and figure it out. And I feel so blessed to do that. But yeah, like, so now I'm like always telling, any young creative, like, yo, read this book, yo, do this, or like, hey, have you tried this, or et cetera, because it's super important very early to do that.
Mentorship is another thing I was going to say, because there's a lot of people that do preach online and have no idea what they're talking about. Owning 100% of nothing is like stupid, right? You also, being independent and I own my master's, great, okay, you have no infrastructure. Like, you know, you don't know how anything's gonna work. So right. So mentorship. Find somebody. I don't care if you gotta stand outside of a studio, if you gotta send 1,000 DMs, if you gotta like just figure out how to get in front of them. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do and who did what you want to do, and just ask them. You know, one thing successful people like doing is obviously talking about themselves. So they'll tell you everything. They'll tell you everything and how to do it, right? So we all love like, yeah, back when I was, you know, everybody's got a back in the day story. So find somebody who you can, you know, be your mentor, and they would give you the keys, you know. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I'm gonna say education in general, not just like music education, but like stay in school. Like if you are a person who loves that college resonates with you, it pushes, like you're doing well in school. Do not drop out to become famous. Just don't do that. You know, like if you have 2 more years to go, you know, work. When I was first starting off, like I would stay in the studio all night. You know, like that doesn't end. If my day ends at 5 p.m., I'm going to go to the studio at 6 and still wake up at 7 in the morning. Like, remember that there are many facets of this business that you could grow in or shine in. What if it's marketing? What if you're like a different, there's this artist, what is her name? She was like, I can't remember her name right now, but she was a phenomenal artist, and she put out this one, another artist, and then she ended up becoming like a big artist. You know what I'm talking about? You know?
Also, there's another example of that, of like Bibby, I think his name is, who was like, he was a successful rapper, and then he was like, I'm going to just sign somebody else. And he signed another, who did he sign?
Juice WRLD and Kid Leroy.
Right.
Wow.
And like
Yes.
made $1 billion. And he
Yes.
said, okay,
Right.
I'm just going to be an executive.
I love
Yeah.
that.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I know we have to wrap, and I know we have to do some Q&A, so I just wanted to say thank you to you three. I'm so inspired, and I hope everybody else is. And to everybody who's watching this, don't drop out to become famous. That's the one takeaway. So we're gonna move on to some questions.
Yep.
Give them a round of applause, please. Thank you. First question is, what are some ways you overcome writer's block?
I don't believe in writer's block. I believe in writer's traffic. And like it slows down a little bit sometimes, but a block is to say that like you're not flowing within yourself. If you're breathing, like if you there's a story, you might not have a story right now, but if there's a story, you might have a story. Like, cause this all is a retelling of something else. If you tell me like this is what's happening with me, and then you have like a melody that I just heard you singing on the way to the bathroom, I have a song. So you just have to remember, you have to just know that there's other ways to tap in, and it may not be your normal way, which is like your process. So break away from your process is the best way to avoid writer's traffic.
Yeah. I think there's a song everywhere in every conversation. So it might be your mama talking about your daddy. It might be your aunties talking about, you know, somebody or whatever the case may be. But, you know, there's so many isms and colloquial terms that we use on an everyday basis that are all around us that may not come from us, right? Like our life may be going great and we don't have anything to really kind of write about, but somebody somewhere got some drama or, you know, or is experiencing something that you can channel and kind of build from and, you know, put as a theme of a song.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, if you have writer's block because you're, like, trying to write a song and you're just not feeling that way, then that means that, like, you're internalizing it too much. Like, you need to pretend a little bit more. Like, you need to act a little bit more. You know, like, it's not about you. Like, you know how you, like, you're with your friends and you're, like, pretending to be somebody or you're, like, doing an impersonation? That's what you need to do for that song. Impersonate. Like, you need to, you know, like, just, it's not... You know, like, that's what I do. I mean, for me, if I'm not upset and I need to be upset, then we gonna pretend, you know? If I'm in love, if I'm not in love or I'm not, you know, or whatever that feeling is, that's what I kind of evoke. Like, I'm not trapping. I don't trap at all. But if I got to trap on this song, baby, then I'm trap or whatever. Or, if I'm lazy, if the song is about being lazy or missing someone or someone died or whatever the case may be, that's the feeling that I need to evoke, that I'm going to do that. So I just pretend. That's how I kind of get through my writer's block and not take it too seriously. Yeah, I don't take it too seriously. It's 2 minutes, 120 seconds.
Well, before we get to some questions from the audience, let me introduce myself. I'm Chris Espinosa. I'm a GRAMMY student, and I'm the intern for the LA chapter. So, yes, thank you. So, do we have any questions?
Thank you again. Appreciate that, Chris. And to the panel, I really appreciate everything that you all said. Very informative. My name is Dave Giles II. I am a songwriter, producer, as well as music publisher. There was a number of things that jumped out, but one of the things that really hit home for me, thinking about what it means to be a songwriter. Again, everybody in this room has experienced as a songwriter, you're also a vocal arranger, you're also a producer, you're also a sampler, you're also, a producer in so many different ways. You're a therapist. And depending on what route you take, might end up being a publisher as well. So how do we shift the perspective or the understanding of how deep and how layered and technical that work is, so that it is, I guess, received with the same appreciation and, I guess just appreciation that comes for producers and other aspects of the industry as well. And simply put, so that, we are able to achieve healthcare, so that we are able to not be paid last in the, in the process and things of that sort. So, yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, applaud that. I think advocacy is like is so needed, like right now, like for us to like ask those questions and have like panel discussions, have like town halls, whatever is needed. Just to answer the latter part of your question, for us to be able to speak up as creatives is the only thing that's going to change things. Like for I think you said there's like all these things that have to change, like from a legislative perspective. Like, there's lobbyists that speak for us, that make changes, like for streaming and for you to be able to live in all of the facets of your gifts. As a songwriter, a publisher, arranger, all these things, like we have to be able to start having these conversations. Like this is so important that we're having this conversation, and for that to continue. I know it's like a small thing, but it's not really that small, because like the more we talk about it, the bigger the conversation becomes, and more people talk about it, and then it gets to the change makers.
I think we need to make songwriting like cool again. Like I feel like artists need to like start putting their arm around us and saying like, this person wrote this song for me, and I am so grateful that we sat in this room. And they need to do like a BTS video with us and make it a reel, and it get like 10 million views and it go viral. And then they just speed that up and put the song underneath that. And then that needs to go viral, and they should like put it on streaming services, and that should get 10 billion. No, I'm serious. I'm not even trying to be funny. I feel like, again, I watch like a lot of older like music documentaries, and Smokey Robinson was a songwriter signed to the record label, right? And he was writing for all the artists on the label, and everybody was getting the song, and then everybody was cutting the same song and releasing some of the same songs, right? And then he got his own deal, Stevie Wonder, one of the greatest songwriters of our time, man, right? And he's an artist as well, but he's a songwriter first, And I think it's super important that we have that advocacy via like the artists being our sounding board. Absolutely. Because, and I say this all the time, and I'm probably gonna put it on a t-shirt, I do not see Billboard Hot 100 tracks. I see Billboard Hot 100 songs. The song is like, the song, man, it's the song. So like you have to, like we need the producers as well as producers too. You know what I mean? The producers as well. But like the producers, there's like this thing, like the producers are like lit, right? Because they got the tags and like we don't have no tags. You know, we're not cool. Like, we ain't got the
Why
tags.
not?
you
I
know?
think it's
You
important.
want a tag?
Put a tag.
But I think it's important to understand that the song is the if you're producing a song that you and I wrote, you're producing a song. We're the songwriters. If I wrote the music and you wrote the lyrics and melody,
True.
So I think that's a thing that also needs to be like illuminated. Like this, what the song is just because like we're equals, buddy. You know, because you have. I don't know, mixed it in some ways because, because sometimes a producer really does a production job, but especially when you're dealing with like such a stripped down production and it's my melody and lyrics that is carrying the song, then we are equal partners in so many respects.
Advocacy is not just done in DC.
Right.
Advocating for yourself is done in the studios. It's done by knowing your business. It goes back to what you were saying earlier about education. Like if you're not fully educated of how the business works and what you should be entitled to, then you don't know how to navigate the business. And I think at the same time, like when you have a team around you, you don't know if they're actually doing a good job or taking advantage of you or dropping the ball or whatever. But I think you have to advocate for yourself. I think you need to say to the artist, like, hey, I'm writing these great songs together. We have this amazing relationship. I need you to like help elevate my brand.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for the artists who have done that, like in my career, who've done that, and you're like, I'm sure we all have had that, happen for us, and I think it just needs to happen more all across the board because they have the biggest reach.
That's right.
Because they got the fans, they got the people. You know what I mean? So that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's things like points on a master and things like that. I definitely want to say, like, I don't think it's, because I feel like a lot of times in the industry, this conversation amongst, producers and writers kind of being pit against each other, where it's like, it comes out the producer's pie, because that's what a lot of these labels do. Well, they'll put on the producer because they don't want to deal with it. But it's the same pie, and artists have points that they can give out depending on their deal, because everybody's deal is structured. Structured differently. There's no uniform deal. But like, if a mixer can get a point,
that's why I went straight to not even like we're all one. Like I don't even want to say, oh, you did the piano part and I did. Like, nah, bro.
Right.
Like we made the song,
right,
and that big artist who got 10 million people coming to the arena,
right,
and we wrote a song called I Love You. Now they go on the I Love You tour with I Love You t-shirts that we don't get any money, any percentage of, right? And they got I Love You mugs and all this stuff from our IP.
Right.
Intellectual property, if y'all know what that is, right?
Right.
And like, so we need to stick together. Yeah. Like, I don't even want to separate it. Like we should be in a group photo when they album drop. On their Instagram. Like, just the same way we have all these amazing photos of like Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones together, right? And showing the process of them creating that. We have those magical moments because they understood the importance of that team of creatives helping him make Thriller.
But still, not as many photos with Rod Temperton. I just wanted to point that out.
And I agree. And I agree.
But thank you so much to this amazing panel. Can we give a nice round of applause? This was a great conversation. I can feel it. Everyone in the audience is like, oh, I want to contribute. Oh, I want to contribute. So I think one of the great things that we're doing here, and I do want to acknowledge our amazing songwriters and composers wing. Again, Evan Bogart, who is our moderator for the day, was one of the people who started this wing within the Recording Academy. A lot of the advocating, creating platform, wanting to build community, because that's still at the heart of what a lot of what you're talking is like, and having the community understand how they can continue to support one another is what we're trying to do at the Recording Academy through the work we do with the SNC wing. So a big thank you to our songwriters and composers wing committee for bringing together this topic, to Evan Bogart, our moderator, Brittany B., Tora Stinson, and to Chris Riddick Times. We thank you for your time today and for your contribution to the conversation. So in closing, I hope you've all enjoyed our wonderful panel today. I hope that today's panel was inspiring and insightful. Again, we're going to continue to support each other. We want to hear from you, our members, both in the room and out in the world. Let us know how we can continue to impact the work that you do through conversations like the one we're having today of Grammys Bridges the Gaps. It will air soon on social media. We talked a lot about social media. We're here for it. We're going to help itself. So definitely look out for that. And I want to thank, last but not least, again, our partners at Volume Studios for allowing us to have this amazing conversation in this space today. Thank you all. Have a good one.